Geez, I hate to interrupt you all. What a lot of conversing going on tonight. It's great. Hey, February 28th, I want you to notice, looking west, we still have sun coming in for the first time, right? Tomorrow's March. We did the Melta Trail Saturday, which introduces spring. And as I came up Union Street, there were a lot of children playing in the new playground right in Grand Junction Plaza. So let's just say that spring has arrived in Westfield, Indiana, okay? Good to have you all here. Let's say our Pledge of Allegiance to our country. I think it has a lot of extra meaning this time around, does it not? As we want to keep in mind our brethren in the Ukraine and what's going on around the world. Todd Holsworth, I believe, is here. Todd from Northview Church, if you would bless us. So if you would all, I guess I need to rise. You're already there. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor?
Step up and pray.
Yes.
You want me to go to the mic? Okay, I will do that. Let's pray. God, we first just acknowledge who you are. We come before you. You're a great and awesome God. You're a creator. You've made us, you love us, and you've extended grace to us. You've even saved us, and you've called us to a purpose. So, God, we're just praising you for who you are. God, we pray over the purposes here in this place. There's agendas and discussions, and this is a meeting. And so, Lord, we just bring it all before you. I pray for the decision makers. I pray for wisdom and discernment, the men and women who oversee this city. So, Lord, just be at work in them. And, Lord, those presenting, Lord, I just pray that you'll guide them. Lord, I pray over the city of Westfield. God, we want this to be a special place, a place that honors you. It's a light in the world. We pray over the families living here. Lord, pray for protection. We pray for the kids growing up. We want them to know you. And, of course, God, I'm praying for things larger than this area. We do pray for things overseas, things we don't even see or understand. But, God, I'm praying for peace. I'm praying for you to step in. I'm praying for justice. I'm praying for change that only you can bring, miracles that can happen. So, God, we give this evening to you. You're a great and awesome God. We praise things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor, thank you very much. President Johns, would you take the honor of running the meeting, please, sir?
I would be happy to, sir. Kim Strang, would you please note the presence of a quorum?
Scott Willis.
Here.
Cindy Spoljaric. Here. Joe Edwards. Jake Gilbert.
Here.
Scott Fry.
Here.
Mike Johns.
Here.
Troy Patton.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Kim. First item on the agenda would be to announce any changes to the agenda. We do have a couple, just to keep so everyone knows who's been following our efforts here. First thing would be Ordinance 21-47, the courtyards at Spring Mill, which was up for council adoption and consideration on January 24th. It was tabled on the 24th, and this ordinance was withdrawn by the petitioner following public comments. So that ordinance will no longer be heard. Second ordinance 22-09, creating a local historic preservation commission, which had a council introduction on February 14th. That was initially up for a public hearing this evening. We've moved that back for 2 weeks, so the public hearing will be on March 14th. Third change to the agenda, minor change. Tonight we're going to be hearing ordinance 22-02, establishing the Westfield Advisory Council on Disability. This has a council introduction this evening. This item does not require a public hearing, but we will be opening the floor to public comments. So those are the changes to the agenda. First item then on tonight will be the approval of the minutes for the February 14th, 2022 meeting. Councilors, have you had a chance to review the minutes, and do we have any questions?
Yeah, I got one question. There was quite a bit of a conversation after the clerk made her presentation by veracity. I know Chris Larson had an opportunity to come and speak as well for an extended period of time. I do not see that on the meeting minutes. And based on the controversy behind that conversation, it's probably worthy of us at least making note that happened.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some comments, just short a short summary on what was discussed.
Okay, I think we can make that happen. Okay. Do I have any other changes or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion then to approve the minutes with the addition of the comments that Council Will cited?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Cindy Spillier, seconded by Troy Patton. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Mike Johns,
Yes?
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier. Yes. Troy Patton,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the claims docket for February 28th, 2022. Counselors, if you had a chance to review that docket, do you have any questions? Comments? Do I have a motion then to approve the claims docket for February 28th, 2022?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Troy Patton, seconded by Scott Willis. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Cindy Spillier. Yes. Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. We then have two items under old business tonight. The first item is ordinance 21-34, Urban Apples PUD. This ordinance had a council introduction on July 12th of 2021, APC public hearing on August 2nd of 2021. There were several modifications to this. It came back for a APC recommendation on December 20th, 21. It received a favorable recommendation, and it came forward for adoption consideration on January 10th of 2022. At that time, there was considerable discussion regarding the ordinance, and I'm going to let Pam review it, and then we'll move on from there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Pam Howard with the Community Development Department. Before you this evening for your consideration, we have a proposed new planned unit development district to be known as Urban Apples. This 24-acre site is located at 18326 Spring Mill Road and is currently zoned AGSF1 with an approved variance for wine processing. The proposed ordinance contains standards to accommodate the expansion of the existing use into a larger agritourism facility as shown on the concept plan and in exhibits. This item again was introduced on July 12th at City Council, and since that time several changes have been made to the petition, which are described in the staff report, as well as the additional materials linked to that report. The petition did receive a 7-2 favorable recommendation at the December 20th Plan Commission meeting and did appear before you for your consideration on January 10th, where it was continued after some discussion. I do have Matt Pleasant here on behalf of the petitioner to make a brief presentation, after which both he and I will be available for questions. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council. Matt Skelton with the law firm of Church, Hill and Antrim, with offices at 116 North Union Street here in town. With me this evening from the Urban Apples team is Noah Heron, Michael Hayner, and Mark Rupenthal. We are, I think there's been enough description. You are all familiar with the proposal. We were here last month with our presentation, and this matter was tabled to allow opportunity for additional discussion. And what you have before you is essentially unchanged, that there have been some conversations since then, and we believe this item's ready for adoption consideration this evening. I'm happy to cover any details of the proposal if you'd like to hear them again. I would just like to state, though, I've had an opportunity to consult with the Urban Apples team, and they understand and fully appreciate the importance of complying with the applicable standards to the site, the processes of the city, and also the timelines established in the PUD ordinance. So that is not lost on them at all. So with that, I'll happy to respond to any questions, and we would appreciate your favorable consideration tonight.
Thank you, Matt. Let me start the conversation off. The adoption consideration was tabled really for the purpose, I think on the part of the council, to verify that the petitioner would indeed be investing $10 million into the project, as he claimed, and to try to find a commitment mechanism to ensure that there would be a $10 million investment. It was determined that over through the conversations that we had amongst ourselves and with council, that the attorneys were not able to structure a deal which would document that a specific investment would be required. Okay. We also investigated the possibility of entertaining into a nominal abatement with the idea that that abatement would hold and require the specific investment. But we discovered that should the petitioner fail to follow through, the damages to be recovered would really be just limited to the amount of the abatement. So that really didn't achieve our goals either. So we did have several conversations with the petitioner through his representative, and we verified that it was his intent to invest $10,176,000 over a 5-year period. Subtracting the value of the land, that's approximately a $9 million additional investment. All right. We further looked at the proposal, which thank you, Matt. We kind of didn't go in detail because it takes a while, but we looked at the proposal. We reviewed it. We discovered that in the first year of the ordinance, prior to a certificate of occupancy being granted for the Vine buildings, the petitioner is going to have to complete the treescape per Exhibit F, complete the streetscape fencing per Exhibit G, plant all the apple trees prior to April 1st of 23, complete all the Vine building improvements and enhancements as shown in Exhibit B, and this is all within the first year. And the total amount of investment to get those things done is estimated at $3.4 million. So we believe that that's pretty close to what's going to have to be put out in the first year by the petitioner. Further, the petitioner is required within 2 years or prior to the certificate of occupancy to be granted for the cider building to complete all the improvements and enhancements as shown in Exhibit C, again within 2 years, complete the main music shelter within the 2 years prior to that completion of the cider building, and also complete the mound which surrounds the music facility. So that we anticipate and estimate to be $2.4 million. So at the end of the day, it would appear to myself, having gone through these numbers, that we're looking at about a $7 million investment within the first 2 years, which would be definitely be significant and probably what we as a council would like to see. That being said, I still personally have some concerns with the project. I think that the Urban Vines has been a very, very profitable and a nice company to have within the city of Westfield. However, this particular location, I just don't feel that it fits the big picture of what we want to have investments, what we want to have developed around Grant Park. I'm concerned with the proposed structures are not using the type of quality materials I would like to see. I'm afraid of the noise element. We could have a similar noise element to what we've had in their other location. I'm concerned with the ongoing use of food trucks, and most importantly is the code enforcement, and as related to code enforcement issues that we've had at the Urban Vines location over the years. It concerns me even when I received emails from a surrounding residents, and more specifically from a past council member And let me quote what he said. He said, "Please know that from my many years in municipal government, Urban's Vine owner, Noah Herron has been the most non-compliant business owner I've ever experienced. He usually did what he wanted, then asked for forgiveness, and then asked for more exemptions to keep expanding well beyond what was originally considered for that site." Now, that said, okay, we as a city over the years have had an issue with enforcing our code on developments. We do a pretty darn good job of enforcing code with respect to residential builders. You know, from building a house, code enforcement's going to be there 5 times during the build process to verify that I've met all my standards with respect to structure and plumbing and electric. Up until this date, we have not been able to do that as a city, basically, as I understand it, basically because we just have not had the manpower to do that. I have had some conversations with Kevin Todd, and he assures me that he has now hired some people this year. We're going to have a new code enforcement officer. So I am pleased to say that I believe, based upon what I hear from the city, that we will be able to actually enforce codes and developments moving forward. So that's something that was a work in progress, and I expect that by the end of this year, Kevin will have more information to us on that. So that being the case, I would open the floor to comments from other councilors.
I'll jump in. I want to thank the petitioner for working with us. I know that we got very detailed in this PUD to try and rectify any problems before they became problems. Knowing what we knew from Urban Vines, it was a learning process probably for all of us. And so I think there's a lot of safety measures in here in terms of making sure that the petitioner actually does what is in this PUD. Because it's written in and because it's very specific, we'll be able to follow that. And from the community, I've heard that there are a lot of people that are very interested and excited to have this as an amenity. I think it can be an amenity for our Grand Park area as well. And so with all those considerations, I'm willing to give this a favorable vote.
If I could just add, I agree with what you're saying, Cindy. I mean, Noah is a small business owner. He's an entrepreneur who has invested millions of dollars into our community and will continue to do so in the coming years. And that is something we should encourage and reward when we have someone amongst us that's willing to do that. I blame the city as much as I blame Noah for any of the mistakes of the past. He was a new business owner, we were a new city, and we were all growing together and learning and making mistakes along the way. I think we're smarter, I think he's smarter, and I'm super excited about this. I can tell you I drive by Urban Vines frequently. It's always packed, all times of the day. I don't know what people do for a living around here, but it is packed. No matter what time it is, it's open, it's packed. And I think that's a testament to Noah, his vision, and what I know he's going to do with this Urban Apple. So I'm super excited about it, and he certainly has my support.
Any other comments? Can I have a motion then on ordinance 2134, Urban Apples PUD?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 21-34, Urban Apples PUD.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Scott Willis, seconded by Jake Edwards, Jake Gilbert. I'm channeling Joe apparently here, so. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Reluctantly, yes.
Cindy Spillier.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thanks, man. Noah, thank you. All right. Moving on, whole business, ordinance 21-59, Bel Canto PUD. This had a council introduction on December 13th, 2021, APC public hearing on January 18th, 2021, APC recommendation on February 22, 2022. It received a negative recommendation by the APC, a vote of 8-0, and it's up for adoption consideration this evening.
Good evening and thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to allow us to present tonight. For the record, my name is Jim Schinover. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner, Bel Canto Asset Growth Fund. With me tonight on behalf of the petitioner is Gabrielle Gonzalez. Also with us is Sandy Avery, who is participating remotely via audio if she's needed. As indicated, this matter did receive a negative recommendation from the Plan Commission. In essence, what Bel Canto heard throughout the Plan Commission review process essentially was great-looking building, great-looking product, it's just in the wrong location. Nonetheless, Bel Canto and the owner wanted to come before the council tonight for a final vote, and I'll have a very brief presentation overviewing the proposal and what we believe are the benefits of the proposal. First exhibit on the projector before you is outlining the real estate in yellow. You'll see it's 23 acres. Just south of and adjacent to David Brown Drive. To our immediate west is the Roush dealership. Further to the west is US 31. To our south is the Woodfield or Woodside Estates community, and then adjacent to us on the east are two different apartment communities. Go to the next slide. This next exhibit was the conceptual site plan that we reviewed with the Plan Commission, superimposed on the aerial, so you can see how this project infills and transitions to the other uses that surround it. This next exhibit is the same conceptual site plan with some details. You'll see that it did achieve or was proposing to achieve one of the objectives from the thoroughfare plan, which was creating a north-south extension of the primary street from David Brown Drive going to the south. You'll see that the multifamily area was further to the south, but away from US 31. There was also a proposed commercial outlot that is near the top of the page, adjacent to David Brown Drive. The apartment community itself, buildings were oriented facing toward 31 with the best presence possible, and the parking fields located beyond there. And then there was also accommodations for a very nice clubhouse with various amenities, pool, and other on-site amenities within the development. Next exhibit were elevations that we shared and discussed with the Plan Commission. These are perspective renderings on the view if you were looking from the US 31 corridor looking back over to the east. These are not your typical residential appearing apartment buildings. There was a thoughtful design in mind, knowing the corridor that the property was located in, so it was more of a corporate appearance to the buildings. They would all be served by elevators and have many other amenities that are designed to attract this type of demographic. Each apartment unit accommodates essentially an apartment office or den, so many people now working from home would have the availability in a community like this. Further, the clubhouse had a lot of technology and Wi-Fi ability that you could also conduct your business meetings there as well. Also, as indicated, each apartment building would have been served by elevators and then interior corridor entrances to the exits. Next exhibit, please. We also shared some photos of the typical interior finishes to give a flavor of the high-quality finishes that would be contained in this community. Next exhibit. We also shared with the Plan Commission some exhibits showing some of the sight lines to the south. There were some questions based on transitioning and locations to our south, to Woodside. And one of the items that we pointed out to the Plan Commission was that under the current zoning, significantly taller buildings would be permitted by right closer to that southern property line toward Woodside Estates, and it would essentially permit as many as 7 or 8-story office structures located approximately 45 feet from that south property line. With Bel Canto's proposal, their closest building was positioned about 150 feet from Woodside Estates. Next exhibit, please. We also shared examples of the high-quality amenities that Bel Canto typically provides in all of their neighborhoods. So we reviewed that with the Plan Commission as well. Next exhibit. Again, back to the overall site plan, and in conclusion, last exhibit, really just a summary of some of the benefits that we tried to communicate during the Plan Commission review process. The fact that the proposal has both a 2% and a 3% assessed value component. Bel Canto was anticipating investing approximately $60 million in this project for the community of Westfield. And then also other notes that we shared regarding the idea that based on the surrounding uses and transitions, we felt that this would be appropriate use, and we provided appropriate buffers, also trying to achieve an objective of the thoroughfare plan by providing that north-south connection. We do believe that a project like this could help spur office development around and along this corridor by providing a high-quality workforce that would be available to either existing businesses or new businesses that might choose to locate here in the city of Westfield. But with that said, we do appreciate the time that the staff and the Plan Commission and this council has taken in reviewing in this project. So we appreciate your time tonight and remain available for any questions or comments that you may have of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Councilors, questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Motion to deny ordinance 2159, Bel Canto PUD District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Cindy Spaljeric, seconded by Troy Patton. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes?
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Cindy Spaljeric.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. We do appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, our next item tonight is an ARPA update by Councilor Spaljeric, after which we will open it to public comments on the YMCA request for ARPA participation in the ARPA city funds. So, Cindy?
I do see representatives from the Y, and I'll call you up in a minute. We do have a lot of people here, so I thought I'd just give a very quick background. We originally received word that we were getting $9.8 million with the American Rescue Plan funding. And so we have gotten the first disbursement, and we've planned out some spending for that first disbursement, which is $4.9 million. Moving back a few years, we've had a request from the YMCA for funding, specifically for $5 million request. We did not have the ability to do that, and we did not move on it. So when the interim guidance came out from the Treasury, we could not use the money to help the Y construct. Since then, the final guidance has basically allowed governments up to $10 million in their disbursement to treat it as a standard deduction loss kind of thing. So basically you can use the $10 million for any governmental service that you typically provide. So it opened up very broadly the use of these ARPA funds for us as a community. So then came back the discussion for the Y. And we know that the Y has had this request now for several years. And believing that these funds could achieve potentially some of the goals and objectives that were laid out in the final guidance with the ARPA funds. So on the committee, we've been discussing this, but felt it was a full council need for discussion, and we wanted to make sure that we really talked to the community about this. It would be over half of our total distribution, which is sizable, and we have a lot of competing needs. So this is the second chance for public comment that's open tonight. You can always, again, email all of us, council, any specific thoughts on this as well. But I just wanted to have this as an update time and then to let anyone speak who wanted to. So if the Y wants to come and share anything first, and then we can hear from public.
Good evening. Thank you, councilors. Mr. Mayor, for putting us on the agenda again tonight. We're honored to be back in front of the council with this request. As I shared with many of you 2 weeks ago, Our desire to move this project forward really does pivot on the support from the city. Our board, as I shared, this is the highest priority of our work to be accomplished this year. Our board is fully committed to seeing this project through to completion, so much so that at our board meeting this past week, as I shared with many of you, our board voted to move $3.5 million of our cash resources into the capital stack to build this project contingent upon the $5 million gift from the city. That would leave us a gap of about $2 million to fully fund the facility. We have a strong plan in place to close that gap and reach that fundraising goal. We believe it'll take us somewhere around 12 months, which coincides with the timeline to go back to design and work all the way through the schematic plan, design documents into the construction documents. And through the bidding process and the permitting process, we believe all those timelines will come together. So we're fully prepared with the affirmative vote from the council in a couple of weeks. As soon as that happens, we'll be ready to move right back into design and start the clock with an anticipated groundbreaking of March of '23. It's usually about a 16-month process to build a facility, which would put it opening in the summer of '24. So again, we're honored to be back in front of the council. We appreciate your support. Would love to hear from people in the community that might have either the same views or differing views to give you a basis for your vote that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And then I'll still be here for any questions that you have at the end of that. Thank you.
Kevin, do we have any cards?
We do. We have 5 cards for this item at the moment.
Okay, good. And would you, let's remind everybody that they have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay.
And I've been designated as keeper, so I'll wave at you when it's about time.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Who's our
All right.
first card?
Ellie Ketchum. And I apologize in advance if I butcher somebody's name. That is not my strong suit.
Okay. Please be sure to state your name and your address. So we are.
All right, good evening. My name is Ellie Ketchum, and I live at 520 Richland Way, Westfield, Indiana. I am 18 years old and a senior at Westfield High School right now. And I've been working at the YMCA Aquatic Center in the Westfield location since the opening. I work every weekend as a lifeguard, deck coordinator, and swim instructor. And to say that I have grown from this experience would be an understatement. One of the biggest benefits that I have found from working at the YMCA is that I've been able to communicate with a large variety of people who are different than me. And I think that's a very valuable skill in this day and age. For example, many of our patrons that come into our facility have a Hispanic background and English is not their first language. Because I am in the AP Spanish class in school, I'm able to communicate with them, and I think that has been a very valuable experience for me. In addition, through my work as a private swim instructor, I've been able to work with kids with cognitive disabilities, which has also been very valuable. One such child who I've had permission to speak about, his name is Danny. Danny came into our facility at the beginning when we opened, and he was so frightened he would not even put his toes in the water. And he has made amazing progress since then, and he's able to be in the water with me and do big ice cream scoops with his right hand, like freestyle. This may not seem like a huge feat to you or me, but being able to see him grow and be there with him has been revolutionary, and it has helped me realize that learning to swim is just as much of a mental struggle as it is a physical struggle. And I think that our staff here at the Y is able to meet those needs of children who need some extra support on the emotional aspect of learning to swim, because learning to swim can be scary. And I think that our staff is able to go the extra mile to help support these children. And I also think that this helps create an amazing atmosphere, not only to work in, but just to be around. I personally love working for the Y, and I think that it's an environment that anyone can be a part of, because I don't think it's just about exercise. I think people come to exercise and swim laps, but I think they stay for the people. And I think it's amazing to be in such an amazing atmosphere that's so dedicated to the community. And whether you are one of our active older adults who does the Silver Sneakers program, or you are a mother who brings in their 3-year-old child to have a parent-child class and sing songs, I think it's an amazing experience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Carrie Larison? Is that close?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm Carrie Larison, 14715 Elise Lane. I know Ellie gave her age, I will not. Needless to say, I actually do work with the seniors and currently teaching water aerobics and silver sneakers, but I also have a master's degree in counseling, so mental health is extremely important to me as well, and that's really what I want to focus on this evening. And as people age, I don't think it's a big secret that sometimes we can become more lonely. We stay at home more, we're empty nesters, we don't have our kids' activities. And there's studies that show that loneliness and social isolation lead to higher risk of depression, and as does the lack of physical exercise and activity also increases that risk. So obviously the YMCA can help with the physical aspect of it, but I really think that we help with the mental part of that as well. And just a couple of quick stories. Right after Thanksgiving, I was asking one of my water aerobics classes, hey, how was Thanksgiving? Did you spend time with your families? And one guy got a big grin on his face, but he said, well, I couldn't spend it with my family, but I spent it with Ron and his family, and pointed to one of the other guys in class. And I said, I didn't realize you guys were friends. He said, well, we really aren't. We just met here. And so I don't know what he would have done without that, but I know he wasn't alone for Thanksgiving because he met a guy in class. And a couple weeks later, I was to Silver Sneakers class. A guy that was always there was absent, one of our regulars. And I mentioned that I was surprised about that. Like, I can't believe he's not here today. And one of the couples in class immediately said, yeah, you're right. We'll call him afterwards. We've exchanged numbers just in case either one of us needed things. So we'll call him and make sure he's okay. I can't imagine how uplifting that was. He was okay, but just how uplifting that was for him to get a phone call that somebody noticed he wasn't in class. So, as we continue to grow as a community, we've got so many amazing things going on here, but I think as our schools grow, our churches grow, our community grows, people become more isolated. They feel more alone because they don't have those small little interactions, and I think the YMCA is a place where people can come and they can have that interaction and help build those relationships and stronger mental health. Thanks.
Alex Van Winkle?
Hi, I'm Alex Van Winkle. I'm the aquatics director at the YMCA in Westfield, and it currently feels like I live at 851 East 181st Street in Westfield, Indiana. I just want to kind of further on what two of my employees have said. The Y is a community. We have created these small-knit communities for the larger community of Westfield. People can come, and the Y's mission is for all. We are for all, for mind, for body, and for spirit. And as you can see, we are not only helping the members of the community who come and visit, but we're helping grow the staff. I have a staff of roughly 20 teenagers and about 5 to 10 adults in our community. Of this staff, they are growing not only in their skills as a future employee, but they are growing, as Ellie mentioned, her ability to communicate with others who are not like her. I feel like very often in this world, we assimilate with people that are like us. And the Y, being for all, allows for everybody to come together under one roof and work together. Other things that our Y has done so far, and I think can go beyond what it is with just the pool that we have today. As Ellie mentioned, we have a Hispanic community that comes in and utilizes the facility. through a grant we had with another local nonprofit collaboration, we were able to provide 30 to 40 kids swim lessons who would not normally be able to take lessons on their own. Their families were able to bring them in, and one of the children, actually, his name is Gabe, was able to learn skills that not only saved his own life, but this past summer when he was in a neighborhood community pool, as many of our neighborhoods have outdoor pools for our citizens to use, he noticed a boy that was struggling to get back to the surface of the water, and he noticed this, took his kickboard, went out, and was able to help this child alert adults and his mother and get the child to the side of the pool. So the Y is doing more than just a pool. It is something, it is a community, it is a place for people to grow, to learn, and just gather together. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Cooley.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Cooley. My maiden name is Wheeler, and I grew up in Westfield. I am here as a representative of Wheeler Farms. I'm a partner in the Wheeler Farms, well, in the family, and Wheeler Farms, and the address is 18206 Kinsey Avenue in Westfield. I'm here to offer support for myself and my family and for the YMCA for the many community benefits it could offer. The Y brings a wealth of resources to a community, not only education, health benefits, active lifestyle, and community connection for all ages and all abilities, as the other speakers have said. My family believes strongly in this project, which is why we are proud to be a part of it and gave land for it. I'm a physical therapist in my career, so I see the lifelong benefits of an active lifestyle and community connection. And over the past few years, with what we've all been going through, I think community connection is vital, in addition to the health benefits and education aspects of the Y. So I would ask you to consider supporting this project because it could bring some great resources to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the last card I have at the moment, George Sandburn.
Good evening, thank you. Manny, I don't think I'll need 3 minutes, but my wife says I talk till I say something. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. George Sandburn, 432 North Union, live just up the road. Got a business down on Park Street, too close to Greek's Pizza. $5 million is a lot of money. Yes, a lot of zeros, but it's a bargain. I've been on the Fishers Y board for 22 years. Been a member of the Y, I said last, I think on Valentine's Day in Kokomo, part of the Y for years. It's funny how the first two speakers talked about swimming, because in 1975, it wasn't her YMCA swim class, I probably would have drowned in Lake Schaefer. Chased a ball out too far and couldn't get back. And what kicked in my mind was what I was taught in swim class. And to this day, I still don't know how I got back, but I do remember the swimming class lessons. Second thing I'd like to say is I used to have the bank building there on the corner where Wolfie's is. Had that for about 12 years, and we got a lot of people coming in there, and they would tell us that the basement was the community center forever. We would get birthday parties, wedding receptions, baby showers, just all kinds of people. And I'm like, how did you, I mean, the room's only 700 square feet. You guys have been down at Wolfie's downstairs. Well, maybe you haven't, but you've been downstairs at Wolfie's. It's a pretty small room. That was the community center. And now, then we had 10,000 people in Westfield, and now you've got 10,000 people that go through that light probably every hour. So I would just like to say, I'm for the Y. You guys know that. I just feel like it's going to be a great place for the community to gather. When my business we hooked our trailer to the Y truck back in 1990. We just knew they were going places, and they really supported the YMCA and a lot of the C in the YMCA today. So I would just like to say thank you for all your support.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
48 seconds
I want to thank everybody who spoke and also who has written into us. It's very important that we hear from the community. Oftentimes, people say it's worthless to speak, that we've already made our decisions on things. That is so untrue. Most of us, we wait until we hear those public comments. They mean so much to us. So thank you. And if you have any more comments, please feel free to get them in. I will say there's been some inconsistencies with the message out there that if the money went to the Y, that we wouldn't be able to help other nonprofits. That is not true. We have right now 45% is, at least in this plan, which can be changed, is for basically nonprofit assistance. It's to handle the negative economic impact of the public health emergency. That is only for the 4.9 million, and we have the next 4.9 million coming in May. And the vast majority, if we did this, would likely come in our next disbursement. So that money is there to be able to help our nonprofits. And just so everyone knows, we have finalized our application. We intend to have that up on the website most likely this week. And you'll be able to submit, it's kind of a two-stage process. We didn't want everyone to have to go fill it out, in full. It's quite excessive given what we have to report back to Treasury. So there's kind of a first pass and a second pass. And so that should be going out, and you'll be able to send that back to the committee members through one email, and that's arpacommittee@westfield.in.gov. So I just want to put that out there since we have a lot of people here. And our next meeting is March 11th for the committee, and we'll be figuring out the rubric for objectively scoring applications. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. So when is this going to come for a decision on the Y? Are we going to have is it going to appear on our next council meeting with a vote, or is the ARPA committee going to get it back to make a recommendation?
I'll weigh in. I know that the Y is looking for our answer by the end of March. We are also waiting to hear from the county, the Hamilton County Commissioners and Council. They do have an interest in this project in as much as a higher education partner can be obtained. So that will likely weigh a bit into this decision as well. They're supposed to be hearing something about that in March as well. So hopefully end of March.
So we're looking at the March 28th meeting. So apparently we're going to have a March 28th meeting.
There you go. Got something on the agenda now. Thank
Maybe
you.
before, right? Hopefully before. Okay, all right. Moving on then to new business. Our first item of new business tonight is Ordinance 22-02, establishing the Westfield Advisory Council on Disability. This ordinance has a council introduction this evening, and following the introduction, we're going to open the floor for public comments. So, Scott, are you going to do the introduction?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's let everybody that's going to leave shuffle out. So I'm excited to be able to present this tonight. This is something that I got approached on back in the fall of last year. A few members of our community who have either a disability or children with a disability had reached out with a need and was wondering why the city of Westfield doesn't have a council or a committee or whatever you want to call it to advise on issues facing the disability community. And I'll be honest with you, although I have a child with a small disability, I'm certainly not aware of all the challenges that those with disabilities face in our community, and it's wide-ranging in terms of what those impacts are. So I listened. I met with many people in the community, including the schools, met with Carmel and Fisher City Council members who are also doing a similar program in their community, and came to the conclusion that, yes, we need something like this here in Westfield. So we put together this ordinance. We put a lot of thought into it. I've met with members of the city staff, to include Jonathan Nail, who is our ADA coordinator, and feel good about this product that we have before you all this evening to consider. If you would, next slide, Kevin. So just in terms of the purpose of this council, the purpose is really fourfold. First, to represent the needs and interests of people with disabilities in the city of Westfield and provide a platform for the disability community to express challenges and issues that they're facing in our city. To partner with the city of Westfield in establishing priorities and strategies to address the various challenges and needs facing people with disabilities in the community. 3, to provide informed input on the development and assessment of future city projects and services that impact people with disabilities. And lastly, to collaborate and partner with local organizations, community partners, and disability stakeholders to build bridges, establish partnerships, and increase opportunities for people with disabilities. Next slide. So who will make up this council? My vision is there's 6 different groups that will want to get involved. First, Jonathan Nail from the city. He is our ADA coordinator and really has to be a member of this council for it to be effective. I envision 2 appointees coming from the mayor, 2 appointees coming from the city council, a sitting city council member. I've reached out to Dr. Kaiser, and he wants Chase Stinson, who is the Director of Student Services for the Westfield Washington Schools, to participate. And then I think it makes sense to have a member of the city's Human Resources Department as a non-voting advisory member. And just to make note, for all of these appointees, I think it's important that the appointee must be either living with a disability, provide care for someone with a disability, or be employed by a company that provides services to those with disabilities. Having people in the community who can understand or relate to those who are impacted by disabilities, I don't think it does the council justice. All right, next slide, please. So I've had a few questions from council members. Why do we need to make this an ordinance? And I think there's several reasons why. First off, it formalizes the Disability Council and gives it a voice to make an impact. It codifies addressing the needs of those with disabilities within the city and ensures this doesn't disappear with changes in the city administration. If this was a mayor's council or just something that we tried to put together, it can go with the wind of politics, and I certainly didn't want to see that happen. 3, it reduces redundancy and strengthens the community by having a focused platform where all voices and challenges can be voiced. 4, according to our state constitution, an ordinance must be created by municipalities when adopting a rule or policy with broad applicability, significant impact, or for an extended duration. And I think this fits all 3 of those areas. And then lastly, why not? This is not giving the government more power. And I've heard people say, oh, you're creating bigger government. I think it's the exact opposite. It's giving the power back to the people and allowing them to have a voice in their community. And that's exactly what this ordinance will do. And it also addresses a need that makes an impact to us all, quite frankly. Everybody in this room could walk out of here tonight and have a disability before they go to bed. Everybody in this room, if you're of childbearing years, could have a child that has a disability. So this impacts everybody in our community. It's wide sweeping, and it's exactly why an ordinance makes sense. Next slide. So areas for impacts. How is this going to impact the city? First off, I see it impacting infrastructure. We need to look no further than that picture up there of a city employee getting a ride on a wheelchair. Thank you, Gloria Del Greco, for this experience. State Road 32, we designed, according to ADA compliance, we designed walkways for the new downtown corridor, and come to find out, it really wasn't wheelchair accessible. And we didn't know that until Gloria showed up with the wheelchair and said, you navigate this. And it was eye-opening, to say the least. So having a council that can advise the city on infrastructure projects, I think is important. Second, workforce development. It is not a surprise that this community and every community in America right now needs workers, especially in Westfield when we're relying on tourism and the types of jobs that come with it. The more people we can get into our workforce, the better it will be for our community. Not to mention, it gives a purpose for those with disabilities who want to work, but quite frankly can't. 3, public safety. I learned this is one of many things I learned as I was looking at this. Our city has a program that if you have a child or a family member with autism, you can reach out to the 911 system that we use, and if they get a call to a home where somebody is autistic, if you're not familiar with autism, loud noises, changes, interruptions in your routine can cause a lot of stress and can create outbursts in behavior. And it can exacerbate a problem when a police officer shows up and somebody is maybe losing control or struggling with their emotions. And we have a program now that makes the police and the fire department aware before they show up for a 911 call that, hey, we've got somebody in that house that may need some extra attention or at least awareness. Education. We're not here to replace the schools. We're not here to dive into the schools' issues around educating those with disabilities, but it certainly can add an extra layer, especially as you look at education of those that are adults, that are outside the school district. Transportation, it's a huge issue. We have folks that want to work, that have a disability but can't drive. And, you know, again, it gets us back into that workforce development, gets more people producing in our economy. Mental well-being, this is kind of an obvious one. People with disabilities oftentimes are isolated. They don't have people to reach out to network with who understand some of the problems they're going through. And creating this council, I know the city of Fishers has done a phenomenal job of putting programs in place and just activities that support those with disabilities. Give them a place to come and to talk and to network and to have relationships. And I think that's important for our community. Best practices between government entities. I'm on the library board. We do our own things around disabilities. The city's doing their thing. The township trustee, she's doing her thing. The county's doing their thing. The school's doing their thing. And this is a way to pool these resources and create some best practices that we can take across all entities in our city. Inclusion among residents. I think this is also a no-brainer. It goes back to mental well-being. The more people that feel included in our community, the better community we will be. And lastly, attract new residents. I know that can be somewhat controversial. People moving to Westfield, that may not be a positive thing in some people's eyes, but I think it is. I want people to want to live in this community. And I can tell you, those that are impacted by disabilities, they pay attention. They research this. They look into this. It's important to them to live in a community where they feel welcomed and they feel like we're here to help them through the challenges they might face. And I think this is, our school district certainly has that reputation. I've heard it resoundingly from the people I've talked to who have children with disabilities, but I think we as a city have some work to do. And I think this will be a great starting point. All right, next slide, please. So what is this council not? It's not a parent support network. We have a lot of parents who have children with disabilities, and certainly we're here to help, but this is not a support network for parents. It's not a non-for-profit charity. We are not going to be out there raising money. It's not a line item in the city budget. This costs the city $0. It just requires a little bit of time. And yeah, we may need Chris Larson to help us on the city website with advertising and creating a place where people can go and voice their concerns. And lastly, it's not going to be a cause that comes and goes. Disabilities is not going anywhere. If anything, it's growing on a daily basis, and this is something that is here to stay, and we need to address it. So with that, I will offer up anybody who has questions. I'm more than happy to answer any concerns they may have before we take it to a public hearing. Must have talked too long.
So, all right, that being said, why don't we go ahead and open the floor for public comments at this point in time. And again, please get your cards to Kevin Todd if you haven't yet. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Kevin?
We do currently have 10 cards, 11 cards. Tendra Duff.
Hi, City Council and Council community members. My name is Tendra Duff. I want to share one statistic with you tonight. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 people have a disability. Sometimes disabilities are easy to understand, but others are not. I've been informed by council members that we, the people present here tonight, can achieve this same results that an advisory council on disabilities could achieve. I was told that by starting a city-sponsored committee would become an empty feel-good vote for purely political reasons. This council supposedly would not do anything additional that is not already in place throughout the city, state, school, and other organizations with the community. I was told that the schools are helping those with the disabilities. While they are helping our school-age children, who is answering the call from my 80-year-old grandma who would just like to walk down the street? Do any of these so-called outside groups that already exist within our community help set visions for the city? Do they adopt guiding principles and goals to reflect that vision? And do they build on policies and projects that impact city residents, businesses, and the community as a whole? We know that the only way toward a more equitable, interconnected society is by including everyone. If Westfield is going to continue to claim to be an inclusive community that welcomes all, then we need a voice for those with a disability. We want Westfield residents to enjoy a great quality of life, first-class educational opportunities, and easy mobility. We need to lay these foundational planks by electing to implement a disability council that will empower individuals with disabilities and promote equal opportunity across the board. All citizens have the right to live, work, and enjoy Westfield. Unite to include. Vote yes for the Westfield Advisory Council for Disabilities.
Thank you, Kendra.
Mindy Cooley.
Hi. My name's Mindy Cooley. To the other Mrs. Cooley out there, I'm an OT. I know. I married into the name as well. My maiden name is Mindy Selby. And I live at 16526 Connolly Drive in Westfield. I am an OT at Riverview Health. I work in adult acute rehab. And I am the mother to Ian Scott Cooley, a very amazing 3-year-old boy with Down syndrome. Watch out for that guy. So, when I met Scott and I found out about this disability council, I was really excited. And, I just think about how, just from working as an OT, I look at it from that perspective, and now, a mom of a child with a disability, I look at it from a completely different perspective. But all in all, disability, it presents itself in as many ways, the diverse ways as the people in this community. It's so diverse. So to raise awareness for disability and to help people understand what disability is, raising that awareness, it leads to the understanding, and that leads to the equity. And it's it's really important to see the person before the disability. And I don't think you realize that until you start living in the disability community or you have somebody with a disability in your life. But this council can help bring that knowledge and that education and that information to everyone in the community and just start to bring everyone more together. Understanding the differences in others is it's the start of learning how to live life as a neighbor and with an individual with a disability. You could just ask any other 3-year-old that is in my son's community preschool class, because they don't see Down syndrome, they don't see the disability, they see Ian, they see his strengths, they see his opportunities, and they love him and they support him. And that, just take that example and then let's multiply it to the everybody along the lifespan that lives here in Westfield. We need this council to be the experts to lead and guide and elevate what we're already doing in Westfield to support this very special part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon Scott.
My name is Brandon Scott. I live at 4245 Amesbury Place here in Westfield. I firsthand have seen what a Disability Advisory Council can do. As a former member of the Mayor's Advisory Council on Disability in Indianapolis, I was able to see how projects such as the Red Line and adaptability around that help grow that community. I know firsthand that several individuals with disabilities that are in the workforce, They only believe that they can only live in cities like Indianapolis because Indianapolis has shown to be an ally to the disability community. I am here tonight to pledge my full support to a future of a Disability Advisory Council here in the city of Westfield. And I do challenge you, City Council, to become an ally to the disability community. Becoming an ally to that community can only help the city of Westfield grow. And I know that's what we all want to see, is to see this city become the best it possibly can be. And becoming an ally in the disability community is the next step towards that greatness. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Sam Rivard.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. For the record, my name is Samuel Rivard. I reside at 509 Kennard Lane. This year marks my 13th year for the service with the city in the informatics group. But tonight I come before you in support of the ordinance on the establishment of the Advisory Council on Disability. My wife and I have 2 adopted children. In 2018, we adopted our son all the way across the world in Shanghai, China. Shortly after a year of him being home, he was diagnosed with nonverbal autism. We should always be looking for ways to attract, retain, and support businesses and individuals coming to the community that can provide meaningful employment and resources with individuals with special needs. The Advisory Council on Disability can bridge those relationships between the city, business owners, and like community members. The city's mission statement, I was part of the team that redefined the mission statement about a year ago, are exactly this, and the core values are enhancing the quality of life through exceptional service, commitment, and integrity. I believe that it is our public duty to foster an environment that is inclusive of all individuals. I believe this ordinance before you encompasses each of those attributes. So I applaud Councilman Willis on your efforts, and I believe that this will go much further than just a council on disability. So I encourage you to vote yes, not only for the community members, but for everyone that may come. And it does and is noticed in the special needs community as me being a part of that. So thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Tasha Cleaver.
Mayor, Council, my name is Natasha Cleaver, and I live at 102 Northland Street in Fishers, Indiana. And you might be asking yourselves why a gal from Fishers is here talking to you tonight, and so I'm excited to share why. I spend 2/3 of my heartbeats in your city working to end isolation for individuals, and that's really what we're here to advocate about, a way to end isolation. I recently sat across the table from a young lady named Polly, who has 2 children who have autism, and she herself has autism. And she finds that frequently she is alone and she's isolated. She's at home and she needs help getting out. And the issues in front of us are complex, and none of us are experts, right? We know a lot of things, but we don't know all of the things. And so I love and appreciate and have been celebrating for days with my own family at home, thinking about the fact that Westfield is willing to even consider a council like this. So thank you. We really, really appreciate that. And so I find myself here because we were looking for resources. And we looked and found Carter's Play Place, which isn't too far from here. It's an amazing place, but I tell you, that place has served over 8,000 families in the time that's been open, and not all of them come from Westfield. But they know that Westfield is so great in their inclusion and the things that they're doing to grow that they're coming here to see Carter's Play Place, and also asking how they can put down roots. How can I live here? How can I be a part? And one of the ways that they can be a part of that is being excited about something that speaks for them and gives them a voice in the community, and that's this Advisory Council on Disability. So we do ask you to support us in this, to help us help these families grow, to put down roots in a place that understands them. And for us personally as business owners, within those few years, the business of Carter's Play Place was sustainable. not from the individuals that just had disabilities and neurodiversities, but by your community who spoke up, came out, and were a part of that story. And you can see a picture of that up there on the screen tonight. That's our lovely family. And I'd like to just put out there that with the 8,000 families that we have served, we did that with a staff with 3 people. So we do a whole lot with a little bit, just a little bit. And so the little bit that we need is the advisory council so that we can keep doing that work. So thank you for considering. I appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Jane Hornet.
Hi, my name's Jane Hornet. I'm at 148 West Greyhound Pass. I come to you this evening. My husband, Steve, and I have lived in Westfield for the past 3 years. I've been in Hamilton County as a parent and resident for over 30 years. We happen to share 5 children, one who's 23, who has autism. She also has a hearing issue that she has and several other things. My husband and I also own a pretty successful, fairly new autism services organization, looking at potentially expanding here in Westfield. So one of the things that we're looking at from a business perspective is how does Westfield support all of the families that we will support and continue to support as we move forward. Mayor Cook, it was probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I did a Voices on the Spectrum for individuals with autism, and you spoke, and you were so kind, and I remember that. Scott, you and I have met a couple of times a few years back on just what can we do better for our families. And this is a family challenge. It's not just the child or the individual or the adult. Families are in crisis. It's very, very difficult. In Westfield, I don't know if Chase is here tonight or not, but we have 800 children in Westfield schools that have disabilities. We have over 1,200 children in Westfield that have an IEP, which is an individualized education plan to support the disability or the medical challenges that they have. My daughter's 23 years old. She can talk, but she can't drive. Here's a challenge that we've had in our home. It took us several times for her to call the Hamilton County Express bus that's housed out of Janus in Noblesville. Scared to death to call. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know what to say. So we did a script. We called. We did it multiple times so she became comfortable being able to do that. Now when she calls, very independently, which is a huge, huge quality of life thing just for me, because I don't have to sit beside her and make these phone calls. 80% of the time that she calls, and she calls every week, they do not have a bus because they are so overwhelmed. So transportation is a huge issue, and it's going to continue to be a huge issue if we don't do something about it. Jobs training, job coaching, housing for the people with disabilities. I really want you guys to all realize that this is about a quality of life for an individual and their families. The autism rates are soaring. When we were together years ago, it was 1 in 10,000 children have autism. Today it's 1 in 54. It's continuing to grow. And 20% more of the population with autism is now nonverbal. Thank you. Please support us.
Thank you.
I'm not a judge, it's not quite that important.
And to the YMCA, keep doing all that swimming lessons.
All right. Next, Joanne Tedes.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Manny, and Kevin as well. I had the opportunity to be here at my first City Council meeting on Valentine's Day to experience a marathon City Council meeting. So I just wanted to remind you what I did say that night in case you were asleep and you didn't eat my cookies, okay?
We do remember the cookies, Joanne.
Good, I'm glad you enjoyed them. I didn't bring them today. We'll wait till March, okay? So anyway, I have had the opportunity to meet with several of the council members. Thank you for allowing me to go to coffee with you. Those who I haven't yet, I hope to see you soon. So we are that family that moved here to Westfield. Just to give you a broad overview again, from Northwest Indiana. We were taking my daughter from Northwest Indiana, driving for 2 years to go to South Bend to get her ABA services because they didn't exist. Her name is Madeline, she's 12 and she's amazing. But I just did want to remind you that people are moving to Westfield for all people. I have the opportunity to take calls from families. I'm part of an advocacy group, and people are moving from Texas to Indiana. Now, some of you might not want to hear that, but we are developing, and we can all see that. That don't we want to continue on being that town that accepts all people? It does me good to be here. I am your rah-rah mayor, and I hope that you guys will consider it. Thank you for the candid comments, too, that I've heard, and Scott for pushing this forward. Really appreciate it. One last thing, just keep in your mind that I think it's already been said, but disability is a natural condition, like we've mentioned. And so I think we heard a lot of parents' voices, Valentine's Day, but it's really a lifespan. So when you think about it, we could all be there, like it has been mentioned, but we love Westfield because there are services here. I don't have to drive my kid 2 hours away to get what she needs and deserves. So thank you to Westfield and for your consideration.
Thank you, John.
Dan Degnan.
So I wanted to first thank you for your service. I had the opportunity to serve our community in a variety of ways, and I know it's not an easy thing. I know that you have to do a lot of homework. It doesn't go away. Not everybody agrees with you. So I do, from my heart, want to tell you thank you for your service. I have served on our school board and for about 4 years, and I can tell you that it was actually exactly 4 years. And in that service, a couple things happened. One of the things that happened, I had a son. His name was Danny. He's actually already mentioned tonight. Allie mentioned him when he's the child that had a difficult time swimming. He was born in November of 2007. He was a surprise for us in that he had Down syndrome, not something that we expected. It was our fourth boy, and we had to learn how to be parents all over again. And one of the things I learned, I think it's very apropos that Councilman Willis brought this forward. One of the things that I think of when I think of military service, Marines, is that they fight for people that can't fight for themselves. And I think that this Disability Council gives a voice to having very significant conversations that may not be able to be had normally within our community. I'm very proud of the work that's been done at the schools with providing a venue for people with disabilities to get their needs met. One of the things you can imagine, if you don't know what an IEP is as a school board member, to go into an IEP for your son as a parent, knowing that he needs certain things. And one of the things that is in there is that you have to write an overall goal for your kid. Not just what they want to read and learn and all those other things, and our goal has always been that Danny lead a meaningful life and be a productive citizen. And the schools can do a lot to make that happen, but they can't do everything. And that's where this council would come into play, with making sure that people that have a little or need a little extra help can be productive citizens within our community and provide the kind of service that you provide and that I was able to provide for our school board. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Kurt Sheppers.
Mayor, council, everybody. My name's Kurt Sheppers. I live at 14827 Victory Court, Carmel, Indiana. I don't know why you guys haven't changed that zip code yet. Village Farms. Westfield, Indiana. That's right. We don't use that word, right? So I'm here on behalf of the council to represent Helping Challenged Children. I started this organization as a founding member 20-something years ago, and what we do is we raise money for special needs kids, okay? We're all volunteers, and we do 1 to 2 fundraisers a year, and we go out and we raise $30,000 to $50,000, just depends on the year, right? And we do it with the bowling event, we did it with Top Golf, and then we take the rest of the year and we take that money and we give it out to kids that have disabilities. And we buy durable medical goods, whether it's bicycles and tricycles for autistic children, iPads for kids that need learning disabilities. Ironically enough, I have my own disability child, started about 5 years after I started this organization. So it was a learning experience for me. I didn't think that iPads were something that people would really, I thought, well, when they're out, they don't need that. They're going to abuse it, right? Well, they don't. They use it, and I watch my own son do it and go through it and learn from that with the cognitive ability. We can help this organization and the community by getting the word out about helping challenged children, because all we want to do is give money away and give durable medical goods away. We don't give the money directly to the families. We buy the goods and then get it and deliver it just so that we don't get taken advantage of, or try not to anyway. But we can help you guys to help them and get the word out there and help these guys. Because again, what people don't realize, and what many people have said tonight, is if you don't have a special needs kid or you don't associate with one, you don't know what goes on behind those doors and what those parents' challenges are when the doors are closed and you're sitting there going, oh shit, I had worked all day and now I got to deal with all this and this. And you do it out of the love of your heart, but and I'm better off known as Mama Kay's husband, right? So anyway, I want to thank you all for your time. I want to say this is a great quest that they're on, and let's go for it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, I didn't even see you out there.
You're so quiet.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Gloria Del Greco.
I'm Gloria Del Greco, and I live on 18448 Eagletown Road. I have been a community wellness coordinator for 6 years, and I've been trained to help communities make healthy choices easier for their community members by looking at what they provide. I'm recently retired, but I have worked with Scott, and I also worked with another group, and I know what it is to deal with handicap. I've been trained for 6 years. Years ago, like 17 years ago, my youngest was in college, and my mom wanted to go to the football games. And so we'd go up to Purdue, and she loved Pappy's, and so we'd go there for a hamburger for her. But then she couldn't walk up to the stadium, so I pushed her in a wheelchair clear up to the stadium. I learned a whole lot about walking with a wheelchair. When you come to the sidewalk where it goes across the street, and they've repaved the street, and they've raised it about this much, and you come off and you go like this, and there goes your passenger. So you have to learn to back down streets and sidewalks, so you really get a lesson on what it's like to maneuver. And many times cities say, well, we have handicap ramps. Well, they put them a mile away from where you want to go, and you have to get out and maneuver to where you really need to be, because the ramp was here and it started there. Even this building, look, you have no ramps to go to the restroom. So people come in here, if they need to use the restroom while they're in a meeting, they have to go outside, go up the ramp, and in and up another ramp. And I think you need to consider the things you're doing. I've given Scott a folder full of all my material from my training for the last year, because I've now retired, so I can stay home and help take care of my 97, almost 98-year-old mother, who needs to be assisted to go to the restroom and with everything she does. So I am speaking from experience. And so I know it's important, but also I realize, as I'm looking at what you're planning, because I was here when you were talking about doing streetscapes, if you don't work with a council and a committee that knows what handicap accessible is, and you have a beautiful designed streetscape, and nobody can get down that street because you've got benches, planters, trees, and they have to maneuver around with a wheelchair or anything else, you need to have those committees work in conjunction. It will save you money in the long run. And so I thank you for your time. And if any of you would like to find out what it's like to ride in a wheelchair, I'll be glad to take you on a ride. Mayor? council, because it really did help Sarah and Ken and John and Jennifer figure out why, when I said, where's your crosswalks for 32, that they needed more crosswalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Matt McNally. You're good.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, evening, council. I'm going to pull out my phone and read my notes so that I don't ramble on too much. My name is Matt McNally. I live at 303 Fox Court in the Village Farms of Westfield. And I'm one of those, I think I'm going to actually cover all the bases tonight. I actually did move from Texas here in 2015. My son plays on the soccer team with Dan's son, Sam, and we've seen Danny around quite a bit, and it's amazing to see how the juniors and seniors, they all want to be cool, and it's just really cool to see how they are with Danny, and it's been great. Dan also mentioned the Marines, but I take great offense to that as a Navy veteran. But first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Wilson for his Willis, for his presentation. I think that provided a perspective that, quite honestly, I wasn't expecting tonight, and I just want to say I appreciate it. I served for 22 years in the military, including tours in Afghanistan and flying missions over Iraq. In 2004, when I was stationed in Germany, I was on a medevac flight back from Landstuhl, Germany to Andrews Air Force Base. And I don't know if you've ever been in an environment like that, but you are seeing 18, 19, 20-year-old kids whose lives are essentially changed for ways that we cannot comprehend. They're changed forever. I've seen what happens to my friends and peers when they come home broken. They go through things, as I said, that you and I just can't understand, but through our engagement with them, I've had many aha moments where the light bulb comes on and I kind of sort of understand what they're going through and what they've been through. And I think it's only through listening and talking to others that we get those light bulb moments and our perspectives changed. And I think that's why having different voices, different backgrounds are extremely important. And I think that's what the council will offer. And lastly, I just want to say that I could not be more proud of the community than I am tonight for seeing all these people come up and speak on behalf of, quite frankly, a group of people that I think is quite underrepresented here. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Brian Graham.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Graham. This is my daughter, Olivia. We are at 133 East Columbine Lane in Spring Mill Villages. I just wanted to come up and thank you all for considering this council. Scott, that was really well put together, and I was really shocked and surprised to see it that far along. So that's great that it really seems well thought out and put together. I own a business in Fishers. That city has already been mentioned this evening, and I just saw them putting up the banners tonight for the mental awareness month that they do in March. And so, I think Fishers has done a great job of just being progressive, and I'd really like to see Westfield, follow suit there and become the community that they can become. And I'm excited to be a resident here, and I really believe that it's something this council will just pay dividends in the community. And as an employer, we employ people that have disabilities. Olivia is going to start working at 4-Day Ray here in the summertime. And we also employ others with autism and special abilities as well. And it not only impacts the employer, but it also impacts the employees as well. And being able to have programs to be able to give employers resources to have them feel comfortable bringing on employees who have special needs, it's just paramount. And, I think for most, if they're not familiar with the community, they're going to be apprehensive about bringing those folks in as employees. And if we have a council like this, it's just going to break down those barriers and just help everybody. And I can tell you that there's not a day goes by that, our staff just really embraces all of our people that have disabilities, and it just makes the clients and our guests happy and smile. And, it's just a really good thing. So I just, would implore you all to please consider this council, and it will definitely be beneficial and, have long-term benefits for the community for sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Olivia.
And the last card I have, Cecilia Cobble.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I'm Cecilia Coble. I live at 10386 Tree Line Court in Fishers, and I am honored to be serving as a Fishers City Councilor and also as a member and co-chair of the Fishers Advisory Committee on Disability. And I left with all of you a pamphlet because tomorrow marks National Disability Awareness Month. And I'm here to offer encouragement to many of the people I know that have spoken, that have been a part of my circle, because I too have a special needs daughter, Krista. She's 19, getting ready to graduate from high school. She has intellectual disabilities and autism. And I worry about the future and what's going to happen, after she leaves high school. Where will she work? What meaningful things will she do? So this Advisory Committee on Disability in Fishers has made an impact, not just in Fishers, but beyond. People are talking about it to the point that we have helped Carmel establish their Advisory Committee on Disability. The city of Lawrence, the city of Noblesville is considering, and this was talked about at the Hamilton County Leadership Academy about the need to really come together as a county, because in those efforts, working together, we can make a difference when it comes to some of these challenges that many of us face. And it's not just people that have a person like my daughter, but my mother-in-law had a massive stroke 6 years ago, and it left her paralyzed, half of her body, and now she uses a wheelchair. So that opened my eyes to physical disabilities. And the things that we've been able to do collaboratively, it's been an effort with the direct support providers, the educators, the disability stakeholders, businesses, the city, the mayor, the council, working together to meet these challenges. And we're looking at our infrastructure. And through these conversations, we've learned that we need to put like an adult changing table in our parks, because people with disabilities sometimes have to change adults in diapers, and we need a place. We need to make paths bigger for disabilities. So it's made a big impact. It's helping to provide more meaningful work and opportunities for people with disabilities and looking at these challenges. So I'm here to offer encouragement. I'm always here to help. You have a huge team and passionate people that are ready to get to work in a collaborative effort. And I encourage you to look at the events that we have scheduled for the month of March. We're collaborating with the One Zone Chamber of Commerce, and we have some wonderful workshops that provide more education opportunity of awareness of disabilities. And it would be a wonderful opportunity for the City Council to pass this ordinance as we celebrate March Disability Awareness Month. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Cecilia. Kevin, any more cards? Do we have any call-ins at all?
I might add, if I may, I've had the pleasure of meeting several of these people that have spoken tonight, and I've learned through the years of these services that Westfield has to offer. Our Bierman School, Carter's Place, and the highly recognized reputation of Westfield schools in dealing with those that are disabled, in fact, with disabilities. And as you heard a couple of people say, people move here from around the state because of the services available here in Westfield. And it hadn't just happened over last year or two. It's been going on for a long time. And I like to say, in that light, Westfield has provided some diversity in attracting people before diversity was cool, you know? So it's been going on for quite a while here in Westfield. And so I think it's very timely to consider undertaking what Councilor Willis is proposing.
I'd like to open the floor here to councilor comments, but before I do, I just again want to thank everyone who spoke tonight. It never ceases to amaze me what an articulate, intelligent group of citizens we have in Westfield, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you. Councilors?
I'd also like to thank everybody, a lot of familiar faces. Appreciate all the kind words about the school, someone who works there. It's all true. I would say sometimes I think people are surprised at the resources and the amount of students we have with disabilities. And but I think people would be even more surprised to see at how well our student body treats our students with disabilities. I am so proud of the way our kids treat each other in this respect. I think that that's one of the very best things we do there. We have a great reputation and all those things, but I want to say we were walking Casey Acres with Wellbeing Coalition and giving out information and asking community for needs, and a woman who had 2 sons with autism who had been involved in our football program knew me. I didn't know she lived there. And we were asking, well, is there any community needs that you want to let us know? And she said, when my sons are out of school, who's going to take care of them then? What happens? What about my sons getting a job? What about transportation? And to be honest with you, I was stumped. She was not being rude. She was grateful for what our football program had done for her kids. She was a very nice lady, but I had no answer. And sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so I can appreciate that several people tonight, the councilwoman from Fishers mentioned a couple things that I would have never known. So I think in all humility, as a council, I think this is where we need guidance and direction on how to do things right as a city, and make sure that we are not just inclusive, but doing the best we can for all of our residents. Thank you tonight for the education. Thanks for showing up.
Other comments, councilors?
I have a comment. So, just kind of listening to everybody, I think it was awesome. I've met with Joanne. Very passionate about this. Everyone is, right? I've told Joanne I'm not for the city to host this. It's not out. A gentleman that works for me, he's disabled. I've hired a gentleman who's visually impaired. He told me I could get a credit from the state of Indiana. I said, I don't need to do that. I said, this was in our Fort Wayne office, because he had to take a cab to work every day, right? A good friend of mine won the state championship. He has one hand. Another one won the county championship in wrestling. Jeffrey Scott, he has no arms. I've spoken to these gentlemen, it's not that I love the passion that everybody shares. I think it's fantastic. I would rather see that passion shared amongst those people in this room to create something, as opposed to a city council putting it together. Because I believe that at some point it will fall to the wayside, and there won't be a voice. It's just, I know you can shake your head at me. I get it. It's not that I'm not compassionate. Again, I'm not going to share my story. Everybody has a story, right? Some are more difficult than others, and I'd love to figure out a way to get Janice or HCE to help with those things. If it was working with Jonathan Nail with the city, I think I clearly, I mean, I heard what Gloria said. I don't even know if she's still here, but okay, yeah, Gloria. I heard what you said, you know, about the streetscapes and things like that. You're right. I don't think of those things, and those are obviously things I assume Jonathan they're going to take into account when they put in State Road 32, or at least I would hope so. I just don't. I'm worried that something as important as this will get lost within the confines of the government, and I could be wrong because maybe Fishers. Maybe Fishers has done such a great job with it that maybe it should be a county thing. That way it encompasses the entire county, and it's not just in one area. I mean, again, I listened to the stories and of the people, of everybody that spoke, and I'm sure that's just a fraction of them here in Westfield. And I'm just trying to give you my thoughts on it. I'd really like to see it be something bigger than just something that the city council puts together a commission on. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents worth, so.
I don't have any comments to that.
I've got a question, and again, to kind of follow up Troy's comment there, just in general, I'm kind of I'm definitely a small government is better type of person, no doubt about it. I understand, and again, thank you for everyone that came and shared your stories and your circumstances and situations. Obviously, there's a huge need. I don't discount that in any way, shape, or form. For me, I still have some dots that I need to connect. Some of those dots that need to be connected. I understand that, you know, transportation is a huge issue. Many of you got up and spoke about transportation. I also know on slide 6, I think it was, of your presentation, Councilor Willis, it's not a line item in a city budget. It's not something that's going to cost any money, I think was your commentary to that. I understand that that might be the mindset going in or the thought process going in, but I wonder if we're being short-sighted, not anticipating that this is going to cost money. Obviously it is, and it may be money that is absolutely 100% well spent, but I think we need to get our arms around that before we say, hey, there are all these needs. We'll find a way to solve them with government. That'll be the first time ever, well, one of the first times that government's ever solved a problem. We're going to find a way to solve it, and we're not going to spend any money. I think we're kind of kidding ourselves in that scenario. So I think we need to connect those dots. And again, great call. It's a great cause. It's a great it's a great thing to tackle and to help find a way. I agree with that 100%. I just question whether or not government is the way to do it, and especially when government's, you know, when it's being proposed that it's not going to cost any money. I don't see that that's a possibility.
I have more of a legal question. If we establish this and it's an advisory council, advisory to the city, and it's got appointments from city elected officials, is it then subject to open door law and all those requirements of public notice on their meetings?
Yes.
Okay. Right there, it should be known that can be challenging.
That's an easy fix, just take the city council seat off. I use that as a model for what other cities were doing, but if that's a concern, that's an easy fix.
If we establish it at all, is it subject to open door law?
Yes, I'm not sure what the question is. It will be subject to open door law, which requires a 48-hour notice before any meeting of a majority of the committee.
And they wouldn't be able to share information amongst a group outside of that kind of thing?
I'm not sure
make
that's quite.
decisions.
Would they be the same parameters that we have? So for instance, 4 of us cannot get together to meet, for instance. So if we put together this committee, 4 people cannot get together. If there's 7 people on the committee, 4 cannot get together to talk about what's best for that group at a time without it being noticed and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, there are exceptions, site visits, trainings, et cetera. There are a number of exceptions you can utilize to do that, but generally, right, if they're conducting public business, it would be subject to a 48-hour notice, whether it's for that purpose or not.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that.
May I address you again? I'm sorry, but I just want to answer the 3 objections because I was trained by the state.
Gloria, would you please come to the microphone? Yes, please, yeah, please, Gloria.
I'm sorry, but the thing of it is, you need to realize already this town has parts of their streets constructed so that if your visually impaired employee walked down the street and came to a certain intersection, they could end up in the middle of the street at a diagonal, and somebody could hit them because you haven't planned for that kind of things. And this will save you in the long run because you are building your city the way it's handicap accessible for many people. And that's what you need to be aware of. And that's why it's a great thing that Scott's brought it up. You've got to have vision. And this is what people with handicaps need. You need to look forward. I mean, we are not going to be a town without public transportation for much longer because you need it. You know, if Carmel had agreed to let the one line come up here, it had been up here at 191st Street already. But they wouldn't approve it, so we couldn't do anything about it in Westfield. And that's what you need to be aware of. You need to look into these issues. There's many things going on in this town that for a person who's handicapped and they get injured, they could sue you and it could cost you a whole lot more money than what this committee is going to do. So I think you need to look real carefully at what you're thinking about because you're nitpicking instead of making progress and doing something for the community that will save you in the long run and make this a much better town.
And if I could just address some of Scott's concerns before we get too far down, because I almost forgot what you've already, I wrote notes down, but I'm having a hard time translating, so if I could. You mentioned transportation, correct?
Scott, can you talk in the mic a little bit?
Yeah, sorry about that. I can get loud, so get close to the mic. It'd be dangerous for everybody here. But transportation, I'm sorry, one more time, what was that?
I mentioned that it was a reoccurring theme, that was a major issue.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to admit, I don't have all the answers. In fact, I don't have very many answers. One of the things that really overwhelmed me when I first got approached about this was trying to get my arms around the magnitude of this. There are so many different disabilities and so many ways people are being impacted in our community, and I don't have the answer, and that's why I would argue a need for an advisory council is there are people out there dealing with this that can bring ideas to our council and to our city. In terms of budget in the future, we've talked about that. That's certainly something that could happen. I don't want to predict the future, but I would argue if it's a budget, well, guess what? We as a council get to vote on that, right? And we can say yes or no. So we control the future of how big this advisory council gets. And if down the road, a few years from now, as this thing starts to pick up some steam and the advisory council comes to say, we'd like to have a $10,000 budget for advertising, we can say no. I mean, we're not giving that power away. They're not gaining power. This isn't growing the government. This is giving a voice in our community. And I fail to, that's where I guess I disagree, is this is not growing the government at all. And I think we as leaders, I know everybody up here feels this way because we've all talked about this. We're here to serve our community. And if we're not open to taking advice or constructive criticism or feedback or ideas, then shame on every single one of us. Because that's not growing the government. That's giving the government the power back to the people who we represent, quite frankly. And I'm certainly not afraid for that, and I don't think we're creating, and we want to talk about government overthrow. Well, let's think about all the different things we as a city have ordinances for. Dogs on leashes, golf carts, a lot of different things, right? And how important is that compared to people with disabilities? We as a council, quite frankly, try to create an ordinance for transparency amongst ourselves. Talk about government.
And we can't even do it.
No, we
don't
created
even do
a
it.
resolution. So I'm just simply saying, not here criticizing anything else that's happened, just simply saying we have done a lot more from a government perspective for a lot less. And that's just my opinion. I agree.
Okay.
But hopefully Scott, that answers.
Thank you,
I think
Scott.
they're valid
I
questions.
appreciate
They
that-
really are.
that effort
And-
very much.
Yeah, no worries.
I think the point that Cindy was asking, I just want to make sure everybody really understands. Because I want to make sure you choose wisely. So let's say I'm in support of what you want. But if you are subject to open door law, then that means that this committee, even on emails together, cannot even email each other all the time. Cannot meet together and talk through things. So as logical as it sounds as advising the government, I think we maybe need a little more clarity. I'd love to hear how Fishers works. I'd love to hear, because that was for everything that's been said, that was a seismic thing for me to put that together that, oh, wait a second, so the council can't just meet and get solutions? Because that's what happens. We can never just email each other and say, hey, what do you think about this? Wouldn't it be smart if we just all talked about this? We're not allowed to do that. We can't just get together and have a meeting and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Let's just logically get together and discuss. So I don't want that point to be moot and just everyone thrown over the edge here that they are not supportive of the cause, because I think that was an enormous point, and I don't want people to miss it. So, and I am for the cause. But in terms of best achieving, I think some of our audience may need to choose. So I would love to hear a little more about how other cities are handling this so that we don't box ourselves in and actually make us less effective at helping.
Nobody's against the
with
cause.
solutions.
Right.
No.
Think about what Councilor Gilbert just said. I think there were 11 people, maybe 12 people that spoke here tonight. With this committee, you 11, some of you just lost your voice because you can't communicate with that group, at least not as an open group. So again, back to the point that I was making, I, along with I think everybody else up here, absolutely support the cause. I don't know that the government is the answer.
You guys just gave $5 million to the YMCA. $5 million of federal funds. So you can't use the small government argument when this directly helps the community and helps everybody in the community, not just the YMCA, which is a membership-based organization.
Which 4 or 5 people that spoke tonight would like their voice taken back?
I'm not saying it's not a good idea. What
Okay.
I'm saying is you can't vote for a $5 million project and then turn around and say you're against a small government guy. Especially, like I said, when this directly benefits every single member of the community.
Just real quick, just to respond to that, you do realize that the ARPA money will be spent regardless, right?
Oh, I understand that.
Okay,
I absolutely understand.
So whether it's spent or not, I mean, I'm just talking.
But again, you can't argue about how this is gonna be such an expensive, and I apologize.
Nobody's saying that.
We need a point of order.
You're worried about the cost.
We can't be allowing this, it's not on the
Easy.
record.
Please. If anyone would like to come up and address the council, again, we can do that, but we have to do it in order. First, the floor recognizes Cecilia.
Yes, hi. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and like I said, I'd like to maybe in a separate night or when you have time to give you a little more detail on this, just for the sake of time, didn't want to go into it, but this body is a formal voice, and it's just a sharing of ideas. So I would ask that your city attorney get a hold of maybe the Carmel attorney and the Fishers attorney just to see on your questions on open door. But actually, this body provides a voice. We also have subcommittees that are working on these challenges that you talk about: transportation, housing, education, employment. So we're working together, and so the cost is there is no cost. The cost is idea sharing, of collaborating and partnering with organizations that already exist to meet some of these challenges, because the government doesn't have extra money. The government doesn't always have the answers. So you're bringing the disability community and different partners to solve these challenges of transportation, about employing more people in your community that have disabilities. So I'm happy to provide you with more details, but it's been very effective, and we are shining the light, and communities are looking to establish their own advisory committees on disability. But as far as the legal questions, I'm sure that our attorney and the Carmel attorney could help with that. But it's just more of a committee that's sharing ideas, and so there's notes, it's a meeting that people can attend, but there's also committees within that group that's established.
Thanks,
you,
Cecilia, appreciate it. Counselors, any other comments? Any other comments this evening? I would just add that personally, I had not thought of the question that the Councilor Spelteric raised about the open door laws. And I would ask that our city attorney speak to the city attorneys from Fisher and Carmel and find out how theirs are structured, and is there a way around the open door law, or if we can, since we have the ability to structure this any way we want, can we do it in such a way to avoid that?
Including would subcommittees be held to the same standards as well?
Sure, I can answer. You want me to answer some of those questions now? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
My bar exam students are cringing now if they're listening. So the committee itself is subject to the open door law because it's created by ordinance by the council. So it will require 48 hours notice for a majority of the committee conducting public business to provide notice to meet. And that meeting would be open, and there is no restriction, just like tonight, there's no restriction on how many people can come and speak other than what's established and reasonable and orderly, like a 3-minute rule, cutting off commentary that's not at the mic, etc. There is no restriction because any subcommittees that would then be created by that committee could do the work separately and could create their own committees, and those subcommittees can gain support or membership through the community at large. And then those subcommittees would report in a public meeting to the advisory committee to discuss those findings, because that's the people's business, and the people's business should be done in public. That's why we're doing it here. So the restrictions are in place to ensure that the intent, it's one of the very few laws, by the way, there are maybe 5. Open door law and access to public records have a stated intent at the beginning, and the intent is transparency. And so to ensure that intent is followed, for them to conduct public business, they have to do it publicly. Subcommittees can gather all sorts of information and talk to each other and email each other. The only restriction on email is that you can't expect an immediate response. It can't be like instant messaging, right? But you can email each other. You just can't expect an immediate response, because that would be a violation of the open door law. Because again, you're conducting public business in private, which is relegated to executive session rules, which have exceptions. So I mentioned a few of the exceptions earlier to meeting in public. For a committee like this, it would be important to be able to meet in public to review a road or to review a plan. Those to get training, those kinds of things are all exceptions under the open door law that would be advisable. So they can all show up, for example, at the same time at a function that's hosted by INDOT or somebody else, or the city or Jonathan or whomever, to be able to observe and have a site visit. That's a stated exception. So I think there's, again, and I'd be happy to talk to Chris, and we just ended up hiring one of your city attorneys away, so I'll talk to her and see how she did it. But the issue, the issues of transparency are there for a stated purpose, and that's exactly how they should be. But it's not to restrict folks being able to share opinions. It's to promote them publicly. I'll stop my spiel there.
Thank you, man.
And I'd be happy to, any other questions before the next meeting, happy to talk about.
And my questions, I wasn't saying I wasn't supporting this. I'm trying to understand all the implications of us doing so in the format that we're seeing. So, you know, those are just where my questions lie right now, and I might have some more.
Yeah.
Manning, do you agree that the application of the open door law here is because the elected officials are making the appointments? Carmel schools for years in redistricting, which tends to be contentious in Carmel, relegates the appointments to the superintendent, a non-elected official, as a way around. And so when part of the question was what's a way around it, the ordinance could be changed, for example, to relegate the appointments to Kevin, to relegate the appointments to Kim as non-elected officials, and then the open door law would not apply.
I agree with, that's one part of it. The other part of it that the open door law applies to is because it's a committee established through ordinance by the public entity, by the legislative body, that also, in my mind at least, gets it within the grasp of the open door law. But if the question is, how do we get it out of the open door law, I can certainly come up with a few options. One is not creating it by ordinance. That's an easy one, because I think that also makes it gives it a foothold in the open door law.
I was just wondering if we had a resolution instead of an ordinance, does that have any impact?
No.
Okay, what about, what if we don't pass an ordinance or resolution, and someone appoints someone, as Ann's talking about, for these people, so that way they can all openly meet and share ideas, you know, that sort of thing?
That's certainly an option. But by you mean someone appoints one.
The only thing is, I don't know if it'll hold the
teeth
teeth that these people are asking us for. That's the only thing. I mean, they want the government to be involved, but, you know.
And that's a policy issue for you fine
As Ronald
folks,
Reagan said, you know, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. You know, that's not what you want to hear, right?
So why is everybody concerned about open doors law? I mean, it's all about transparency. Why are we trying to avoid it?
It's more of the burden. You know, the notice has to be posted. You have to make sure that you have an area big enough to accommodate. We're discussing this. I'm just trying to understand the implications of making this decision. That's what I do with everything that comes before me. I try and get all the information to make an informed decision. So that's what we're doing right now, is asking these questions so we can do that. And we just want to make, I mean, we all agree with the intent of this. We want to make sure that it's actually the least burdensome as well. There's going to be a staff member who's probably going to have to be involved, and I'm guessing that's our ADA coordinator.
I think that's what it said.
But I mean, in terms of doing the posting and making sure it's, you know, it's kept up to date and minutes and things like that. Again, I'm just trying to understand, because of the way we're doing this, I'm trying to understand.
No, and I appreciate that, and we certainly want to make sure we're transparent and that we're following the rules that we're required to follow. But I guess I would push back in that 48-hour notice. Some of the things that come with open door laws is a small price to pay for people who carry huge burdens in our community. And if we have to have Jonathan Nail post something 48 hours prior, so be it.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that, Scott.
I didn't say they were. I'm just voicing my comments.
No, I know, but it implies that we're disagreeing with that. Nobody disagrees with that. I told Joanne, when I met with Joanne, I told her, I said, I hope this is extremely successful. I hope it is. I'm worried that as soon as same reason that we're talking about it here is the same reason I feel like it will just get lost in the shuffle, and that, you know, before long, it'll be so cumbersome that it'll lose all the teeth that you're wanting. And that's what I'm worried about. And I even emailed that to people. I mean, I really believe that it would be best served outside of this, because this very thing that we're talking about, when you start having to put this open door all together or anything else, it's like the finance committee or anything else. I mean, we can't even get together and just talk. I mean, you know, so that. didn't hear what she said. I don't even know what she's saying.
Yep, look.
What?
Wait, excuse me. Kendra, do you want to come up and say something? And then we'll close
So
this.
if it's not a part of the council, then who's going to help build these policies and procedures within the community? Who's going to make sure that we're inclusive? If we're not part of the council and we're just another group outside of the council, how are we going to have a voice in anything within the city?
I think that's a fair question, right? I mean, so that's, well, we have an ADA administrator, right? I mean, within the city.
We do.
Currently.
Yes, we do.
So I would think that person would be involved within.
That's part of the ordinance.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. It's whether it's the ordinance or it's outside of.
Jeremy, would you like to say?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'll weigh in on the ADA coordinator and a couple of the other things. So as we know, John Nail is the ADA coordinator for the city. He would be involved with this. It may be someone else in the future. John's primary role of ADA as the ADA coordinator is meeting ADA compliance. I think, so we're talking ramps, access to buildings, anything new that comes in that it's ADA compliant. I think the intention of the group is looking much bigger than that. So there are no ADA compliant measures that we put in place for autistic people, generally speaking. So as far as, I do, yes, we have an ADA coordinator. I think the function of this group would be much more expanded than just what he does. But it is key that he's a part of it. As far as the notice and taking minutes and things like that, we have people in place that do all those things already. So there's no burden to staff to be noticing an additional meeting or recording minutes or anything like that. It's no different than the Plan Commission or the Board of Public Works or whatever it might be. So I just wanted to add those in there. As far as open door law, I encourage you guys to work through that. I don't deal with it a whole lot other than on the other side. But I just wanted to give you guys my opinion from a functionality and operations from the city's side on how we would conduct this business. And it's not a burden to us. Does that help at all?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. That helps.
One last comment, I guess. So we've been having this committee, we've had this committee for almost 6 years. It's been operating in a more an informal way, and just this past week, we codified it in our ordinance in the city of Fishers. That's how much of an impact it's made in our community, that we started this, and it's not going away, it's building. The momentum's building. We're getting calls from other cities saying we want to do the same thing and follow suit. Carmel decided to go ahead and have an ordinance on their committee, advisory committee. So, it has made a huge impact, and I'm happy to share more details with you at a later time if you would like that. But it's been an impactful organization, group of people making an impact, and I really encourage you to do some more research and talk to more people, but I'm happy to help you.
Okay, so just to be clear, so for the last 6 years, and I'm not, you said for the last 6 years it has not been an ordinance, it was been more of an informal group, so they could meet whenever and do everything, correct?
That's correct, and I wanted to be upfront with you because it was a big milestone for us this past week to have it actually codified as an ordinance.
Okay.
Because the city believes in what's been done, because it's made an impact on providing, like I said, more job opportunities, more accessibility, inclusion, social opportunities. And with the YMCA that you're considering, I mean, that's a perfect example where this body, this advisory committee could help with your infrastructure, provide ideas on amenities that would be inclusive. So it's a perfect body of individuals that could help with the growing community that Westfield is. And
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, I'm for the Y. I want, because of these types of things. I mean, so it's not that I'm not trying to nitpick or be against anything. I mean, but.
And I would add, because Cecilia and I have spoken about this quite a bit, I would add that Fishers was really at the tip of the spear when it comes to this type of program. It didn't exist, and they created it through a lot of Cecilia's efforts and Mayor Fadness, and they've done some great things over there. But they've shown a path and a reason for why you want to codify this program. They've done it, and many are coming in behind it because now they've seen the value and the worth of this. I mean, they were just kind of feeling their way 6 years ago when they started, so wasn't really sure where it was going to go. So I think history can teach us things. I think we can look here and see what they're doing and other communities are doing and take that, and why take 5 steps back or 6 years steps back to start something that they've already blazed a trail on? We can pick it up and run.
They don't know if the ordinance is gonna be successful. It's passed.
Well, but the ordinance doesn't change what the committee is doing.
No,
It's
I'm
just
not saying that.
It's just codifying it in a way that ensures that Mayor Fadness isn't mayor in 2 years. The program continues, and it gives us a life and a consistency beyond a mayor or a council or any other political officials.
Counselors, are we ready to kind of close this up for this evening?
But action item, we're gonna get a communication, we're just looking for the easiest way between you two, so that we don't put burdens on the work that they wanna do. Are you gonna talk with the Fishers and see how they did it, you were saying, Manny, and get back to us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to call Chris or whatever, I just need to know what the exact question is, I'm asking.
We're not all like against this. What's the ways we can give the most freedom for success instead of putting open door shackles on if we create this commission, that's all. So whatever Fishers did, I would like to know.
All right.
Okay. All right. That being said, I think we can probably close this discussion this evening. Counselors? All right.
Can I say one more thing?
Well, come up to the front. We're going to allow you one more thing here. We've done everything else tonight, so.
So you heard me last time I was here. I live here in Westfield, and I have 2 disabled children, both 4 years old, they're twins. I just wanted to say to those who were commenting about the burden of having to work within the purview of the open door law, this is not a burden. My children are not burdens, and getting their voice out and heard in the community that serves them, this is not burdensome. All of us are adults here. There are very staunch advocates here who are willing to do whatever it takes to not discuss amongst themselves whatever issue is at hand, and follow the rules and regulations and laws that are in place. So this is not burdensome for us in any way, shape, or form. I just want to make that clear. We will do what it takes to be a voice for our kids and for our family members and for our brothers, sisters, parents, and for ourselves to make sure things get done. And it's not a burden. We're not burdens. None of us are burdens.
So I'm going to speak to that very quickly. I'm going to speak to that. I want to absolutely clarify. I understand that's how you're interpreting what's being discussed up here. That's not the case in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I've heard the word burdensome. This is burdensome. This is burdensome for you guys.
No. You're misunderstanding the point entirely.
Troy, you said for you people or for them.
You're 100% misunderstanding. I hate to tell you that, but you just are.
No.
The reality of it is we want to make sure we get our arms around this and do it the most expedient way, so that you have fewer hoops to jump through, so that you
we
can
don't
actually.
care about the hoops. That's what
Would
I'm
you
saying.
rather spend your time jumping through hoops or getting things accomplished?
If jumping through the hoops gets better opportunities for my kids, willing to jump through whatever hoops
I
you guys put
understand,
out
but
there for me.
do you want to jump through hoops if you don't need to?
Well, I'll jump through whatever hoops you guys
Yes, ma'am.
present.
I appreciate your passion.
So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that we're not afraid of work.
We
We're not
appreciate
afraid
that.
of not
Absolutely.
being able to do the things that need to be done. For
Understood
this.
100%, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. And full disclosure, that really wonderful lady lives next door to my son in Village Farm. So thank you. Okay. I appreciate your family. Oh, I'm sorry. Kendra. I'm sorry, Kendra. Okay. All right. Okay. I think we're going to bring this discussion to a close tonight. Again, this was not a public hearing, as you know. This was an open floor to comments from our residents. So I allowed a little bit more leeway tonight, a little bit deviated from the traditional rules that we would have in a public hearing so that everybody could be heard. I think that it's important for you to know that everybody on this council is supportive of the general concept, of the overall idea. I support it tremendously. I think we need to provide a vehicle to speak for people that cannot speak for themselves. It is incumbent upon us to do that. I have a disabled niece, and so I am well aware of the cost to the individual and to the family in raising a child and the life changes that it brings into bear. So I guarantee you that over the next 2 weeks, this council will be talking amongst ourselves according to open door laws. We won't break those. We're going to be talking amongst ourselves. We'll be speaking with our counterparts in Fishers and Carmels to see what we can do. And we're going to come back and revisit this in 2 weeks, and it will be up for adoption consideration at that point in time. So again, thank you all for attending tonight and for sharing your stories with us. We deeply appreciate it. Moving on to the next item then, our last item on the agenda is food truck approval for Sundown Gardens. We have a spring open house that they would like May 21st, 3 trucks. Summer open house, June 18th, 2 trucks. And a fall open house on September 17th, 2 food trucks. And Manny, I'm assuming we can have one vote on all 3? Is that
You can, sir, yes,
okay?
if you so choose.
Can I have a
Motion to approve food truck.
Second that motion.
motion been made by Troy Pat, seconded by Scott Fry. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Cindy Spokes-Jarrett.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda would be any residents who wish to address the council at this time. I think we've already had quite a few. All right. Clerk Treasurer's comments. Kim, do you have any comments this evening?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. City council comments.
Just real quick on the finance committee, we're meeting Thursday. We're going to start a progression of looking at the finances of the city, rooftops, what we have going.
I'm sorry. Larry, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I didn't. No one
Please.
back here heard you call.
I'm sorry, please. All right. Residents, Larry Clarino.
Larry Clarino, 2533 Live Oak Lane. Earlier tonight, I was going to ask and this is aimed at administration, clerk, treasurer, and council. I was going to ask you guys to bookmark tonight's YouTube because it's been one of the best council meetings I've seen in a long time. Nobody insulted anyone. Nobody interrupted anyone. It's the way this should work. Got a little weird here. But I got to tell you, today's Star came out. I assume you've all seen it. This is an absolute embarrassment to taxpayers of Westfield. To have a front page above the fold article about us that talks about us this way is an embarrassment. We've got to fix this communication issue. I just don't understand it. I grew up in Chicago. I knew Richard J. Daley. The Chicago City Council didn't act like this. And they didn't. And it's all 3 parts of our government are acting like a bunch of little kids. To have, there's developers that saw this article today. Would they consider Westfield? I mean, please ask yourself that. I've been coming to city council meetings now. I'm getting involved with the city. I want Westfield to be better. And I sure don't see it happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, moving on. Finance Committee report.
So we're meeting Thursday. We're going to start discussing our tax base, where we see it going. I think I've emailed Kevin. Kevin's responded back to me. We're going to work and try to figure something out on the developments that are on the books currently, where we are, where we intend to be, or where we're going to be, even if nothing else is approved, just to understand, empirically what we can anticipate as a city and kind of budget out, at least for the next 5 years, no matter what happens.
Excellent.
So.
Good, good. Let me
Can I ask you something about that, Troy? Yeah. And it's something that's just been on my mind for quite a while, and maybe something finance could look at in coordination with RDC and Public Works. So we have a lot of infrastructure needs, of course, and we have TIF areas. And there is some money there, and I don't think that it's being discussed how we can use those for certain infrastructure projects, potentially in the future. So I would just like somebody to take a better look at that.
We will do it.
Okay.
I'll work with Jeremy and we'll figure that out, so, yeah.
And do you know if there is there any way to use, say you had to use a bunch of money to do an infrastructure project in a TIF district that didn't have money in it yet, or not enough money to cover it? Is there a way to reimburse later out of it?
Yeah, usually you have an issue a TIF bond, and so it's paid through the revenues you anticipate after you do a fiscal analysis, the revenues you anticipate from the increment that you expect to capture from that TIF district that's newly created. for
Anticipation
example.
notes or what's that?
Well, you can do a bond anticipation note to do the planning, right? So that's the usual process. You do a band to do the planning or any engineering, and then you usually do a follow-up full bond issuance, TIF-backed bond issuance that's based on the expected increment.
I would expect you'd have to have that increment set though, but because otherwise, I mean, if you didn't have the anticipated revenues coming in.
Well, that's how we did Grand Park.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's how we did Grand Junction.
Right, yeah. In
Those
fact,
are
our company
bonds.
bought
Yeah.
$500,000
And then they
of
have
those
to be,
bonds.
and they have
Yeah.
to be backed up
Actually.
by
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, usually, exactly.
Yeah.
There are mechanisms for that. And
So, yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty typical. And then there's a yearly meeting and report that the RDC does every year. Perhaps you guys can coordinate with the finance committee, can show up at the same time. And if you have any questions about how the TIF money is being used, what the TIF districts have, et cetera, that's all laid out fully at that.
Okay.
I think it's an April meeting. I might be wrong, it might be May.
Okay.
But
Well, that's something we used to do years ago. We used
happens,
to
that
have
has
a
to happen every year by statute.
Yeah, but we
no,
haven't
but
really.
to have the combo meetings.
Oh,
with-
sure,
With
yeah.
the RDC and
Yeah.
council. We used to do
Nothing
that
wrong
with
with that.
school board as
And
well.
that's fine.
And we haven't been doing
The
that.
school board usually comes, they're usually, I think everybody's sent an invitation,
Mm-hmm.
and the school board, at least last year, did. I don't know what happened the years prior, but that's typical and actually a really good practice to have a full combined meeting so that all of these issues can be fully discussed. And
Yeah,
and the
and
bonding capacity.
Right along that same line, I met with Dr. Kaiser today, and we talked about, they just did an updated demographic study. And we talked about the ways, like, when they did it 3 or 4, it's been 4 or 5 years ago, we actually had a joint session of our city council with the school board to go over that demographic. And so we talked about redoing that again. But back to your TIF and like project funding, I think, Jeremy, you're still here. I mean, outside of what, Grand Park and Grand Junction, as far as roundabouts, road improvements,
So-
have you bonded?
Only in one case. Up to this point, we've utilized our.
Cash.
Yeah, our MPO and federal dollars and grants, and then cash for our portions. We did do a bond issuance for the ditch road extension into the roundabout where Casey Road used to be. So where the new signal is, we improved the intersection, extended that new roadway alignment, and built the roundabout with a bond. We did that one with our TIF district. We built some infrastructure down around Village Park Plaza with the TIF district that the county holds. So they issued the bond basically, and then it flowed back to them, but we spent the money. But then other than that, it's Grand Junction and Grand Park. And yes, we routinely look at the cash flows to be able to identify when we can get a bond to
In the
build
TIF districts,
infrastructure.
you look at
Yeah,
that?
Yes, and there's a report that we can send out. Actually, I sent you a report today. You may not have seen it yet, but has some of that debt obligation information as well as what the cash flows are in those TIFs.
And Jeremy, I would anticipate with this, with what we're gonna do in the finance committee, that we would, once we get it together and we can do it with RDC, that we'll put together a presentation for the entire city council on kind of our findings. I mean, we'll try to make them as empirical as possible, so that way, you know, and that way everybody can make their decisions based on those.
And don't forget, there's also a mechanism whereby you can utilize TIF dollars, not necessarily that are from that TIF. Let's say it's a new TIF or development's not yet ripe, because it's to benefit and concern the TIF district, right? For certain infrastructure project, roads, et cetera, that part of it can be stretched, so you can use robust TIF districts to benefit others if it's, for example, a road infrastructure project. So there are different ways you can do that, different capital stacks that you can utilize. I think it's a good idea to kind of combine all that and have all the questions and answers all in one place.
I think it's a very timely topic too. Full disclosure, Jeremy and I met last week, and we talked about the fact that next year at this time, most of our cash is going to be gone because we're going to use it for State Road 32, and we need to have a better idea of how we're going to fund our other infrastructure projects, road projects.
Yeah, but let's be clear, that those are not TIF funds Jeremy was talking about.
No, that's specific to
Those were road impact fees.
That's clear.
Not TIF funds.
But once those go on, we're going to need to find other sources of which perhaps the TIF funds may be utilized in some fashion for infrastructure. That was my point.
Yeah, I want to be clear, TIF funds are not gone.
No.
Okay.
No, we're on the same page. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let me give you a quick report on the Advisory Plan Commission. We met last Monday. There were 2 consent agenda items. Gristmill Shops, which was a detailed development plan approval for a 12,000 square foot building. That was approved right away. And also the Ditch Road Fire Station. Westfield Fire Department presented a detailed development plan for the new 36,000 square foot fire station. Both of those items were approved 8-0. The Bel Canto PUD, which we heard earlier tonight, that was voted down 8-0 by the APC. We had 2 public hearing items. The first, the Harbor at Grand Park Village public hearing. That is a Beazer Homes development going into as part of the Grand Park Village PUD. That was essentially a close to a consent item, and that was approved at that point. The second public hearing was the North Point PUD. We had 15 resident speakers address the APC at that point. It was great. None of those 15 people said the same thing. They all had different points. The petitioner elected to remove the North Point 2 plan from consideration at this point in time, took it back to the drawing board with an attempt to make revisions that would be more acceptable to the residents. So that was what we did at the APC last week. Councilors, any other comments? Hearing none? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I just one thing. Of the crisis in Ukraine and our need to keep those people in our thoughts and prayers, and I'd like to see if we could steal an idea from Carmel, much as I hate to say it, but Jeremy, on our 32 bridge, could you turn those lights yellow and blue?
I can tell you that I cannot, but we do have people that can.
Okay. I can't either, but thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, we'll close our meeting this night. Thank you, everyone who attended.